episode of the Field of 68 after coffee. It's after coffee today because it's still in the morning. It's 11 a.m. here on Wednesday, May 17th. It is the morning after the NBA draft lottery. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Jeff Goodman here with me, and we're going to talk all things lottery. There is more than just the NBA draft to get into. Jeremy Roach, he is coming back to Duke. Does this mean that the Blue Devils are now the lock #1 team? The last time that I spoke with you on the show, Goodman, you told me that Kansas was the clear-cut #1, your favorite to win a national title, and you had already bet your entire life savings on their future over at Bet Rivers. We got to talk about St. John's. You said blindly that you were going to put them in your preseason top 25 the day that Rick Pitino got hired. We're going to talk about whether or not you're still doing that. And Mackezie Mgbako is committed to your new favorite program, your favorite school, the Indiana Hoosiers. I am very, very intrigued to see what this Indiana team is going to be next season. We're going to get into all that. We'll have some updates on.
You know what else we're going to have?
We'll have some updates on Ron Holland, and we have a surprise guest. I have no idea who this guest is going to be. They're showing up at 11:30 allegedly. I have no idea what's going to happen here. It could go completely off the rails.
It's always fun.
The greatest thing that Goodman ever pulled off. We will see. We will find out. You'll be guessing right along with me as it happens. But we got to start with the draft lottery. We got to start with Victor Wembanyama going to the San Antonio Spurs. Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Wemby, Tony Parker, Boris Diaw, Wemby. I have never been more convinced that the NBA is rigged than I am this morning after seeing the Spurs get the #1 overall pick. I'm convinced it is. That's the one tradition that David Stern passed down to Adam. Oh God, I'm blanking. Adam Silver. I almost said Adam Fisher. I don't even know if that's a real person. Anyway, go ahead. Talk to me about Wemby to the Spurs.
Well, here's the biggest thing: is where was the best place for Wemby to land? And a lot of people last night were like applauding it's San Antonio because of their culture, because of Pop, because of everything. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, I'm not convinced of that anymore because Greg Popovich is 74 years old. He's not going to be coaching Wemby for that long. Let's be honest. It'll make it more attractive for the next coach for them to be able to hire the next guy because they'll have a guy like Victor Wembanyama. But that roster is atrocious right now. It really is. It's bad. It's the worst roster of any of those teams. Now, I'm not saying they don't have, good management because I think R.C. Buford and what they put together there has obviously done, wonders for stability and everything like that. But when you look at the players on that team, you're just like, who do they have? Devontae Graham, Jeremy Sohan, Devin Vassell, my boy Doug McDermott. They don't have a lot of high-end talent when the other situations, Portland, Dame Lillard. Like, that's where, honestly, the best place you could have gone was Portland because they have guards.
Yeah.
Dame Lillard, Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons. They got Nurkic. That's the place that, honestly, would have been the best spot for him because they're a Victor Wembanyama away from being able to compete right away. That's the difference. Like Charlotte, no, it's a train wreck. It's a mess. Houston, I know they got Ime Udoka there. It's a mess right now. It's going to take a while to get them to where, again, they've got the right infrastructure in place. Detroit is a mess. So I think Portland was the winner for Victor. San Antonio, we'll see. I just don't think they're going to be any good even with Victor.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a while. I still think that there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment for him getting to the NBA. I just think somebody with that body type and having never played against that level of talent before, I do think that there's going to be probably a year or two to try to get adjusted to playing in the NBA. There's a reason why the NBA is
he's the greatest prospect in team sports history, according to somebody, ever. Like, come on, man. Like, what are we talking about? LeBron James was more hype because he was in the country. That's the difference. Like, there's no way in hell. I know you're trying to sell the lottery here, but
no, I get it. So here, that's actually a great question. Let me ask you this: if you could draft without knowing what he turned into, if you could get 18-year-old LeBron James, or you could get 18-year-old Victor Wembanyama, Who are you taking with the number 1 pick?
LeBron fucking James. This isn't even close for me. This isn't even close for me. The dude, again, his body frame, you knew he was going to hold up number 1. His maturity, you knew he was going to hold up and live up to the hype. His elite passing, his ability to work and get his shot better. That was the only question mark. Elite defender, elite passer, elite scorer, elite IQ, elite all of it. The only thing he couldn't do was shoot the ball well. And man, has he worked on that part of his game, and you knew he would. So this isn't even close. It's not even a discussion for me.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I'll play devil's advocate here. I think LeBron is the one guy that I can think of, and correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody in the chat, let me know if I'm wrong. If you're listening to this on the podcast, please tweet me. Let me know if I'm wrong. He's the one guy that I've ever seen that had that level of hype and that level of expectation that actually lived up to it. Can you think of anybody else that came in where we were saying he's the best prospect that we've ever seen that actually found a way to live up to being the best prospect
or just the NBA?
In any sport, period.
Wayne Gretzky.
Okay, I don't know anything about hockey, so I'll take the only thing I know about Wayne Gretzky in hockey is that Matt McCall played golf with him the other day. That's the only thing I know about
Wayne Gretzky. Lived up to the hype. He lived up to the hype and then some. So, but yeah,
you know what? Hold on, let me take it back. I'll give you one more. Bryce Harper for the Phillies. He was a guy that at 17 years old was the next greatest thing that we've ever seen, and is now the best player and second best player in baseball. Maybe he's one of the best players in baseball. But I do think that when you look at what LeBron has turned into, it is impossible to talk about him as a prospect without the idea in your mind that yes, he lived up to these outrageous expectations that he had. I think given the way that the NBA has gone and how valuable rim protectors that can space the floor are, to me, this is just the next step in basketball evolution, going from the throwback bid like a Shaq to somebody like a Nikola Jokic or a Joel Embiid that play on the perimeter, to a Kevin Durant that is a 7-foot guard, to now you have a legitimate 5 rim protector, great defender who, oh, by the way, might also be one of the best scorers that we're going to see on the perimeter. So it's going to be fascinating to watch him develop. I think he is.
Here's what I say too, Rob. Here's what I say also is I still worry, and I know if you haven't watched it, watch our YouTube video on Devontae Jones talking about Victor Wembanyama.
Tell him who Devontae Jones is.
He played at Michigan. He's now Victor's point guard this year in France. So he knows him about as well as anybody. And it was really
if you go and watch the interviews that he did last night with I believe it was NBA, the NBA social team, and I think Brian Windhorst was out there for ESPN. You could see Devontae Jones creeping in the background with a Bass Pro Shops hat on, which was that had me laughing.
Anyway, Devontae went through everything about Victor and what a great teammate he is, all of it. And the one thing that I'd heard and to listen to Devontae talk about it was his regimen, his pregame regimen, and how he tries to get his body right so that it can withstand not only now, but a career in the NBA. Because obviously you look at these other guys, the Chet Holmgrens, even the Kevin Durants, and they've been off injured. And Victor has a guy, he's been working with him for a while now. They have a pregame, they have an off, they have all sorts of stretching and other exercises, other things that they do in order to be able to get his body to withstand the rigors of the NBA. But I still worry about that body frame. I'm not going to lie. I don't care what he does. I still worry about it because I've seen too many guys that look like that. Well, there aren't that many guys that look like that, but guys that are long and thin like that, that can't absorb the pounding over and over and over and get hurt. So I don't know. I mean, again, I just think LeBron.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I do think that he has, he's got a little bit of a wider frame, I think, than some of those guys, and I do think he might be able to handle a little bit more strength, a la a Jason Tatum. But yes, that is the single biggest concern. It's the same thing as Zion Williamson. You have these body types that are not, I guess, the norm. I guess is not the norm, and the stresses of 82 games plus whatever you play in the playoffs is a lot when you add all the travel and stuff in. So it was good to hear that. That was actually the one thing that I took away more than anything else from the interview you did with Devontae was, oh, he's already prepping his body to be able to withstand it. And that was something that stood out to me. All right. I have 5 more questions for you coming from the lottery. 5 more questions. So we're just gonna kind of roll through these. I'm sorry, 4 more questions.
Okay.
I think that the most fascinating decision, and where we're going to kind of see like an inflection point in this draft, is going to be, and this is kind of an obvious pick, is going to be at number 2, right? Because the Charlotte Hornets are sitting in a position where they're going to have to make a decision between Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller. Now, on paper, Brandon Miller fits what they have on that roster better. At the same time, I think I would still make the argument that Scoot Henderson is the higher upside prospect out of those two. But I don't know if you can play Scoot Henderson and LaMelo Ball in the same backcourt. So
you can because LaMelo can shoot it. That's why you can. I'm not saying it's perfect because both kind of need the ball in their hands. But to me, playing with 2 point guards, there's never an issue with that as long as one of them can shoot it and LaMelo can shoot it. He can.
He can. I think that Scoot is a guy that needs to have the ball to be effective. And LaMelo needs to have the ball to be effective. And so I guess the way that I would phrase the question is this. If you believe that LaMelo Ball is the guy that can lead your franchise to being a title contender, do you take the guy that fits alongside of him, knowing that there's a chance that he could end up being like a Jason Tatum while also
I don't care about fit. I don't give a shit about fit. I'm looking at it, to me, if I'm the general manager of Charlotte, I'm saying, who is the guy I think has a chance to be a top 5 player in the NBA down the road? Who is that guy? That's who I'm taking. I could give a shit about fit.
Okay, so who is it? Who would you take there? You think it's Scoot?
I haven't seen Scoot enough. All I'll say is he can't shoot. Brandon Miller shoots the shit out of it. And Brandon Miller, to me, has the length. Now, Scoot's a freak athlete in a Derrick Rose, when he was healthy type player. He's got that gear. He's got that size. He's got that athleticism. He can pass the hell out of the ball. Brandon Miller's kind of the opposite, right? He's super skilled. He's long. He's smooth. He's athletic enough. He can put on the floor some. He's better than Jabari Smith. He is better at the same stage than Jabari Smith was a year ago because he can put on the floor. He can put on the floor up. That's the difference.
No, he can, but I don't. I am concerned. The reason why I lean Scoot in that spot being the better overall prospect is one, Russell Westbrook, Ja Morant. You mentioned Derrick. Like we've seen freak athlete guards that can't really shoot have a ton of success at the NBA level. So I'm not that concerned about it. And 2, with Brandon Miller, I don't. He can play off the bounce a little bit against college kids. I'm not convinced that he has like the Jason Tatum perimeter game, and that's going to be something that he'll be able to get.
Tatum stood in the corner. First of all, Tatum didn't shoot it well at Duke at all. He shot like 35% or something like that at Duke. Okay, number one. When he came into the NBA, they stuck him in the right corner for the first half of his rookie year. He didn't put on the floor at all. So it takes time. Jason Tatum put on a lot of weight up here that enabled him to be able to go to the when his first couple of years when he go to the basket. He had no desire for any contact. He would avoid it at all costs. Now he's big.
Now he looks like a wrestler, man. Like his upper body is a V.
He's a man now. But it wasn't. That's what I'm trying to say.
He's not just a man. He looks like he could probably play defensive line for the Patriots.
It's crazy because he had a boy's body, which makes sense when he came out of Duke. Now,
but he also I remember watching him at Peach Jam, and like that dude had. But before he got to college, that dude had off the dribble game. His mid range game was elite.
Yes.
So that's the one thing I'm worried about. Brandon Miller.
I actually think Brandon Miller's a really good passer. I really do. I don't think you saw it that much at Alabama, but I saw it on the AU circuit.
You saw it.
I saw it.
Yeah. God, the Boston is really coming out of you today. All right, let's go to the next question I have. So if you are Portland at number 3, I think you have a decision to make. You have Dame Lillard. I don't know how many years you have left of Dame being Dame, right? So you have this asset. You have this number 3 pick. You have some, like you mentioned earlier, you have some good quality pieces around him. Are you using this to draft Brandon Miller or Scoot Anderson, or do you take this and dangle it as bait to try to go get someone like, I don't know, a Brad Beal, someone a star from another organization to try to like legitimately give Dame a second guy? What are you doing if you're the Portland Trail Blazers here?
Yeah, I'm going to try to package this pick, and I'm going to package Anthony Simons and see what I can get right now to get another star, to get another dude that can help Dame, because I think, you know what I think of Shaedon Sharpe. I think he's going to be terrific. And if you can add another forward front, they need another big, really, or at least a big wing, which Brandon Miller is, but you don't have time. You don't have time right now. You got to deliver somebody for Dame Lillard that can help them win now. So to me, I would package Simons because I think his value is really high right now, coming off a hell of a season. And I would package this pick and see what I can get. And can you get, a Brad Beal type? Obviously, you're gonna have to throw in something to make the money work. But I would look to add another all-star.
Yep, that's what I would do too. You're in the win now time frame, and that time frame is kind of closing. So that's what I would do. Is Detroit the biggest loser in this year's draft lottery?
Sure, of course. I mean, they don't even have a coach. Troy Weaver is just kind of accumulating. I feel like Troy Weaver is just like trying to get as many high school, it's like he's still working at Syracuse as an assistant coach in recruiting, and just trying to get as many like top 20 players as he can. Because if you look at that team, I love Cade Cunningham. You know that. I think he's a stud. Jaden Ivey, we'll see kind of what happens there, but I'm hoping Jaden Ivey progresses. And then you took chances on Bagley, Wiseman, RJ Hampton, some of these guys that haven't worked out. Jalen Duren, I'm not sure on yet. So I just think this
Isaiah Stewart, James Wiseman. Yeah, you're right. Like he's just looking back at like who was a McDonald's All-American in 2019. Let me get that guy. I need him.
It's like Troy Weaver is still, honestly, still a college coach, an assistant. So I don't love what he's done. And I'm scared of what he's going to do at the head coaching spot. Kevin Ollie didn't work out well at the end for your UConn Huskies. He kind of ran him into the ground there, Robert. So I don't know. Listen, the one thing is you don't have to work that hard in the NBA. That's the good thing for Kevin Ollie is work ethic. He'll go in and he'll be fine as long as he can develop these young guys.
The one thing I will say about Ollie is this. The best team that he had was when he had Shabazz Napier and Ryan Boatwright, and he could just give them the ball and say, hey, okay, look, the play that we're running is everybody get out of the way and let Shabazz figure something out. Everybody get out of the way and let Ryan Boatwright figure something out. Yep. And in theory, you got a couple guys that you might be able to do that with in Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. So like, I don't think it's necessarily the worst situation, but like I also saw how little I don't want to kill Kevin Ollie on here.
I'm just terrified.
I like Kevin Ollie. He's a UConn legend in my mind. So yes, there's it's not all negative.
I don't like how the pieces make sense. Yeah, there are. Again, you're rolling the dice on too many guys. You're trying to do too many reclamation projects. And again, I don't know who you take here. My guess is that, they'll end up like one of the Thompson twins or something like that. I would take Cam Whitmore, to be honest here. I think Whitmore's got much higher upside. He shot it well this year. Like the Thompson twins are freak athletes who can guard. Amen can pass as well. But, to me, Cam Whitmore fits more of
yeah, I like Whitmore because he can shoot it a little bit. He's a good enough athlete. I think that there's
no, he's a better than a good enough athlete. He's a great athlete.
What I was going to say is I think he's a good enough athlete that he can be like your 1 through 5 defender. Like I think there's a world where he's a small ball 5. He could be a lob. I like him there, but yeah, when you have a chance to get the number 1 pick and you end up falling all the way to number 5 in a 3-player draft, it's kind of it's not the greatest thing in the world. Last thing. Outside of the biggest names, which are the top 3, I'll throw the Thompson twins in there. You mentioned Whitmore. Yeah. Who's the potential lottery pick that you're high on, that you're most interested to see where they land, that you think has a better chance than anybody else at maybe reaching that like all NBA kind of in the MVP conversation level? Like who's the guy that you are just buying all the stock in right now?
Who am I buying all this? I love, I love Casey Wallace. I'll
Yep.
go with Casey Wallace. I just think he's an elite defender, an elite competitor, a better shooter than I thought he'd be, although he came down to earth. He can run the point. And in the NBA, again, you're not going to get pressured like you do in college. And he'll become an even better shooter because he's going to work at it. So I love Casey Wallace. I think he's one. I love Jalen Hood-Schifino. A big point like that. I know he's not a great athlete, but I think he'll be good. But I would say Casey Wallace, to me, I would take in the top 10. So the other guy is Nick Smith. You're buying low. I think Nick Smith, we never saw Nick Smith this year. Nobody ever saw the real Nick Smith this season because he was in and out of the lineup injured. But all I remember is Peach Jam Nick Smith. And man, that Nick Smith was fun to watch because that Nick Smith was a scoring machine. And he could score from all three levels. He's got the positional size. I think he's a straight 2 for the most part. Let him just score. So those are a few guys I really like.
Yeah. So the name that I love, that I keep falling back to, that I think has a chance to be Devin Booker, and also has a chance to be like one of these guys that is barely getting minutes on lottery teams in 5 years, is Keyonte George. Yeah. I think he is the best bucket getter in this. Like, if you're just like, all right, I need to bet on a guy to go get me 30 and a half. Like, he's the guy that can go do that. The two questions I have with him, number one, he showcased a pretty good ability to kind of play out of ball screens and get some assists out of ball screens. My question is, how much of that stuff was actually just schemed and drawn up, and all he had to do was like, okay, you dribble here and then you make this pass, versus like you're coming off this screen and you got to read the defense and figure out where the ball's supposed to go. Yeah. I think more of it was schemed than what people realize. And two, it is the elite level shot making. Like, the thing about Devin Booker is when he's at his best, like he's probably the most efficient guard in the NBA. Like, that dude takes nothing but good shots. He had games where he was like 15 for 19 from the floor in the fucking playoffs, man. And I think that Keyonte George, in a best case scenario, can be that level of player because he's shown flashes of all the stuff that you have to be able to. Like, Booker's also an elite ball screen passer these days. Like, I think he's the best 2 guard in the NBA. Is that crazy to say? Like, who would you put above him?
Probably
it's like weird labeling these guys, like maybe Brad Beal, like Dame Lillard, maybe
he's moved way in front of Beal.
Yeah.
Way.
So I think Keyonte George, there's a non-zero possibility that he ends up being that good. So we will see what happens. Listen, when we come back, I'm going to put Goodman to the test. He is going to have to draw a line in the sand and make a decision on who he thinks the preseason number 1 team in college basketball should be. Is it Duke? Is it Kansas? We'll find out on the other side of the break. For today's episode is Athletic Greens. I started taking AG1 during the college basketball season, and I loved the impact that it had on my energy levels. I'm a big coffee in the morning guy, but by the time that the afternoon would hit, I needed another boost. AG1 helped me tremendously, especially on those days when I didn't want to get up off the couch and go hit the gym. Their tagline is AG1 is comprehensive health and the power of habit in one. And man, that could not be more true. It's nearly impossible to eat and drink in a healthy manner in the month of February and the month of March when you are in my business. And AG1 was exactly the supplement that I needed to improve my gut health and cover my nutritional basis for the day. I've continued that into April. I've continued that into May, and I'm going to continue that the rest of the summer. All I have to do is mix a scoop of AG1 with some water, or maybe add it into a smoothie, and I'm ready to go. Do it after lunch, and you'll be ready to go for the rest of the day. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/field68. That's field68, FIELD, the number 6, the number 8, and you can get yours now. So check it out and help support. Welcome back to the Field of 68. Rob Dauster here. Jeff Goodman is here with me, and we got to talk about who the preseason #1 team in college basketball is going to be. We're going to be joined in about 5 minutes by a surprise guest. I have no idea who this person is. It's going to be just as much of a surprise.
I don't think they have any idea who you are either,
as it's going to be for me. So that would not be a surprise. Not a lot of people know who I am. Anyway, Duke. They got Jeremy Roach back on, was it Monday? I think it was Monday. He announced that he's coming back, which means Tyrese Proctor is back. Jeremy Roach is back. Mark Mitchell is back. Kyle Filipowski is back. And oh, by the way, they happen to bring in a freshman class that includes Caleb Foster, Jared McCain, Sean Stewart, and TJ Power. Those are 4 5-star recruits. And they're still in the mix for former McDonald's All-American Ernest Ude, who I believe took a visit over the weekend. So let's start with this, Jeff.
There now. I think he there now.
You said that Kansas was going to be your preseason #1 team in the country when Hunter Dickinson committed there. Are you sticking with that, or are you coming back to the side of rationality and going back with John Shire and the Duke Blue Devils as a preseason #1 team?
I'm going with Kansas. I'm sticking with Kansas and Bill Self. And, to me, I know it's the world of multi-dimensional wings, but I'm still going to say point guard big when you have DeJuan Harris and you have Hunter Dickinson. That's going to be hard to beat. That's going to be hard to beat. Experience. Those two dudes have been in college for a long time. Duke's got some talent back, right? Filipowski, Proctor. Now Roach is the ultimate veteran for Duke. But they're still going to be young. Still going to have to play these young dudes, right? Jared McCain, Caleb Foster. I don't know how they play that much because you got Proctor, Roach. The kid shoots back. Sean Stewart comes in. TJ Power's got to play. Mark Mitchell's going to play. I actually think this might hurt Duke more than anything. I think they have too many dudes, and it might cause an issue. I do. I just think you want to have it set where you know your roles. Kansas is going to have that. They're not going to be as deep as Duke. They're not be able to sustain an injury like Duke could, but they're like top 8, 9 are going to be set. And you're going to have DeJuan Harris. You're going to have Timberlake on the wing. Nick Timberlake, transfer from Towson, who shoots the shit out of it. You're going to have KJ Adams at the 4, Hunter at the 5, and then Arterio Morris and Elmarco Jackson, 2 electric guards, probably coming off. One of them starts, maybe one of them comes off the bench. I guess. Am I forgetting somebody?
No, I mean that's you got all the relevant names. The one thing that I'll say is this: I think you're underestimating the jump that Tyrese Proctor and Kyle Filipowski are going to make.
Well, you think right. Proctor is honestly, you're ready to put him in the NBA as like a top 50 player in the NBA. I mean, I know Proctor was good at times, but like slow your roll with Tyrese Proctor a little bit.
No, I think he's good. I think we saw him figure it out at the end of his freshman year when he should have been a senior in high school. And I think he's going to come back and have a monster sophomore season. Kyle Filipowski was a monster last year. And I think that he's going to take a step forward again this season. And as far as like concern about finding your roles, there really are only like 8 or 9 guys here. Jalen Blakes is going to be fine. Like if he plays 5 minutes a game, like he was not a guy that was
he's not going to be happy.
But but he's not like it's Jalen Blakes. You know what I mean? Like Jaden Shute didn't play at all last year. And if you end up losing Jaden Shute because of this, like it is what it is. So there is going to be a little bit of a glut in the backcourt. But I also think that based off of what we've seen freshman impact be over the course of the last 2 to 3 seasons, like it may not be a bad thing that these guys are going to be coming along slowly. Does that mean you might lose one to transfer? Yeah, it might mean you lose a guy to transfer. But if you're Caleb Foster or Jared McCain and you see Jeremy Roach graduate and Tyrese Proctor go to the lottery and you're not a first-round pick yet, are you really going to leave? Or are you going to take that bag that Duke's going to drop with the NIL rolling and go out there and be the star point guard next year? Listen, we'll get into this a little bit on the other side of this this guest. Our surprise guest is coming in. I have no idea who this is going to be. This is going to be an interesting moment here. Oh, man.
There you go. That is the best part, that you really had no idea.
I had no idea. It's Matt Painter, Purdue head coach. Paint, what's going on, man? We're live right now, just so you know. I had no idea that you were coming on today. Goodman completely surprised me with this. How you doing, man? What's going on?
Good. I'm good. What's going on? Just at Lon Kruger's Coaches vs. Cancer event. It was a success as usual, and he does a fantastic job with it. But just taking it easy in Vegas.
How you doing on the blackjack table? More importantly.
I'm even. We haven't done much,
All right.
but my wife and I, we play. We even is good. We play together at the same time. So we sit there. She's actually, I've been a little bit down and she's up, but we always count our score together. So
yeah,
we're actually up 50. We won 25 one day and 25, but we played for like one time for like 45 minutes, the other time for like an hour. So
where are you staying out there?
We're staying at the MGM, the Park MGM.
Okay. Good spot. Good convenient spot. All right. So first things first, your big boy, Zach Edey, put his name in to the draft, which obviously he should have. NBA, as we know, has kind of changed. Zach Edey 10 years ago would have been a lottery pick. Now it's, can he get a spot in the NBA? I don't even know. Is he doing anything at the combine? Is he playing? Are you headed to the combine from Vegas?
No, everything's, really kind of dying down. So our assistants went there that first day doing interviews. He did some testing and that was it. I don't even think he shot when he did some skill stuff. So
what are you hearing on him in terms of, undrafted till like mid to late second round? Like what are the NBA guys telling you?
I would, and they're not going to tell you. I think that's the main thing. Yeah. They'll talk about their interest, and a lot of things get lost because there's so much movement during draft day. People that have second round picks, can't take somebody because they have a full boat, or they move something in a trade and things like that, or people are doing their homework and they don't have one right now to possibly get a second round pick. He more or less is just trying to find somebody that's that interested in him in terms of being a player. And, and I think that's a tough process at this point because it's kind of unfinished data. They're still doing their work and everything is relative, right? Everything's in comparison. If they don't take him, they take somebody else. So a lot of times people will like you at a certain spot, but they're also handicapping it for where they think everybody else is going to be taken. And then if people are sitting there for them that they thought no way would be there, now it changes things. But he's just trying to get a feel, and his agent, Mark Bartelstein, just trying to get a feel for people that are sincere, that look at him to be able to play, in the NBA, not something where it's like, okay, we'll just see after a couple years in the G League. That's not what he's looking for. He's looking for an opportunity to be able to compete and play in the NBA and get into a rotation.
I think the value that people underestimate when it comes to NIL is giving a guy like Zach, there's other players, a guy like Andre Jackson, players like this that don't want to go to the G League, a chance to be able to capitalize a little bit on their ability, right? And it makes it so it's not necessarily a financial decision, right? It's okay, what is best for me as a basketball player? Coming back to Purdue, developing my game there, going to the G League, developing it becomes a purely basketball decision as opposed to, hey, look, you know what? I got to be able to go make this money while I can.
Yeah, no question. I really like the name, image, and likeness in these scenarios where they're going back to the school, that they just played for, especially someone like him who's had ultimate success. Now he can handicap it, look at it, gauge it, and say, okay, here's where I would be financially going back to Purdue. Here's where I'll probably be financially. See, that's one of the tough things for guys in these positions. You don't know. On May 31st, you've gotten all your feedback and you think but you don't 100% know. Well, you do know where you're going to be financially coming back to Purdue through name, image, and likeness. And so, comparatively speaking, I think that really helps. The thing that's kind of gotten lost in our business is the guys that are leaving and now going other places, and it's just a bidding war, right? In the spring, like that's where things have gotten screwy, to where guys are now just kind of, lobbying in between 3-4 different schools and just trying to run their money up as high as they can, versus the guys that you mentioned in Zach that are going to go back to their school that have been really productive and really just being rewarded, for how productive he's been. So I really like that. I just don't know how it's got to where it is without anybody talking some level of a cap. Like, think about professional sports if they didn't have a cap and what that would look like. That would be crazy, across the board. You get big markets, small markets. Think about a big market versus small market without a cap, and so the people that are now getting these guys in the spring that are moving, they just have more money than everybody else. So that's not what name, image, and likeness got put in there, because that is what the acronym stands for. You're getting money off your name, image, and likeness. And that's just kind of a bidding war right now in the spring. And the people with the most money are getting guys. But I do think in this situation, this is what it's about. And this is good for college basketball, right? When you get to keep guys such as Zach Edey, if this is what happens.
So if Edey comes back, which it looks like he probably will, unless something crazy happens, he comes back. Your backcourt is a year older, and they took a lot of heat last year. Braden Smith took a lot of heat, but there was a lot on him, probably more on him than you wanted to be on Braden Smith. And
right.
Boyer he was hurt and he wore down a little bit. You bring on one guy, Lance Jones, transfer from Southern Illinois. That's it. That's all you've done in the portal. I think a lot of us thought you bring in another guy who could ease some of the load from Braden Smith having to be more of the primary ball handler. Tell me kind of what's going to be different with those guys next year. Is it just Braden getting a year older?
Yeah. Well, we've taken 2 guys out of the portal in 3 years. I think us and Stanford have the fewest amount of guys that are taken. I just want to do what's right for the guys that are in our program, and I want to do what's right for the guys coming into our program. And so I'm not just going to go on top of people, even though I understand your point, and you are correct. And Braden had a lot of responsibility last year, but he also had a lot of growth. He had a very good year. I think him and Fletch, I think they're going to be fantastic and have great careers. Lance Jones is really going to help us. We also have a Cam Heide, who brings us a lot of athleticism, that redshirted. And then we have Miles Colvin, who is coming in, who is very athletic and very talented, and he's coming in. So we needed more quickness. We needed more athleticism. With those 3 additions, I think sometimes when guys sit out, they get forgotten, but they're not forgotten to us. And I think they'll do a really good job for our program, but we needed that. And we also we need not to turn the basketball over in key games. Anytime we get into key games, especially in the NCAA tournament, where we shoot a high volume of threes, we shoot a low percentage, then we have a high level of turnovers. I don't care who you're playing and what setup. That's a recipe for disaster. We have to do a better job, especially when you have one of the most efficient offensive teams in the country, to play that poorly in those situations when it comes to taking care of the basketball. It's such an important part of the game, because when you're a good rebounding team like we are, even if you're getting some tough shots or bad shots up there, you're still giving yourself a chance to, get the basketball and score.
Matt, let me ask you this, because I think it's fascinating how you view last season. You didn't really come into the year with much expectation in terms of being a Big Ten title contender, at least from the outside, right? You guys go out, you win the Big Ten regular season title, you win the Big Ten tournament, you turn Zach Edey into the National Player of the Year. I don't think there's any way to look at your season as anything other than an overwhelming success. One loss in the NCAA tournament completely tarnishes all of that. So when you look back at last year, how do you look at it?
Well, for us, you gotta be accountable as a coach, and it's when you raise your expectations, you've made it harder, but that's what you want, right? You want to raise your expectations. It's who we've gotten beat by in the NCAA tournament, in the Sweet 16 in St. Peter's, getting beat by Farley Dickinson, getting beat by North Texas the year before. And we just have to be better, and I have to be better. But we've turned the basketball over. So when you're sitting there looking at that, do you have the ability to take care of the basketball? And throughout the year, we've been able to do that. We just haven't done that at that time. So we have to be better, in those areas. But no, it's just building a team, and it's looking at your team. It's like right now we're waiting for Zach, and if he comes back, great. If he doesn't, great. But now you try to orchestrate what you have and playing to their strengths. We have guys that have played more of a role that if he doesn't come back is going to get more of an opportunity. Like a guy like Trey Kaufman-Rand is going to get more of an opportunity no matter what. Really good player. I didn't do a great job last year of getting him ready to defend like a 4, and he needed to. And the other guys were a little bit better, but we needed his scoring down the stretch. And, you know, it's hard when you look at things and you're 22-1, like something's wrong, right?
Yeah.
But we slowly lost our confidence collectively as a team for whatever reason. And then we just needed more punch and we needed more scoring. And I didn't utilize him correctly. And I got to do a better job there with having a weapon like that. But I think he's really going to have more of a role for us next year. But just, you know, just organically kind of looking at your pieces and your growth and then waiting. Like a lot of times people want you to come to your answer. Just wait. Like we're going on a foreign trip. We're going to work out in June, July and practice. We're going to play games. Just see who's going to take the reins. Just see who's going to make steps. Not really your new guy. Your new guys, you're more trying to educate them about what's going on and how to play, things like that. But who's going to make some strides in the other areas? But for us, we got some good players. We got to be confident. We got to be sure. And the only person that can do that for yourself is you have to put in that kind of time and, you know, get yourself in position to really make a jump and then feel good through adversity, right? You know, I think that's competition, like who can really perform and who can really play when things aren't going, you know, their way. And that's what we have to have. We have to kind of get in that build-in adversity through the summer. So now we're gaining that confidence and being able to push through some of those thresholds when things aren't going our way.
All right, listen, nobody's on more committees than you. You're on every damn committee in college basketball. Between that and NIL and all the other crap, I don't know how you have time to coach. There's one hot button topic that every coach is calling me about over and over and over, and that is the waiver for this one-time transfer undergrad rule. Okay,
Right.
so for those that don't know, there's a rule out there that basically you can transfer once, and you don't have to sit out as an undergrad. If you do it after that, you either have to sit out or they put in some stipulations that you can still get a waiver, mental health being one of them potentially. What are you hearing with this and the leniency from the NCAA?
You don't hear anything. And that's what's frustrating because like you get, you know, they send out kind of the guidelines and then you'll see somebody get the waiver and you read the guidelines and it, you know, sometimes it fits and sometimes it doesn't, but then they get it. So is everybody just going to, you know, get those waivers? So, you know, we just need some leadership, you know, more than anything. You know, we need educated why they do things. We need guidance, you know, how to go forward. Like when you go to the one-time transfer and you go to everything that's been put in place, the name, image, and likeness, like you should be able to sit down and say, hey, you know, here's the blueprint going forward because you've never been through this, how to be successful. Not necessarily. What gets lost a lot is people think college basketball and they think blue bloods, they think high majors. And, you know, there's Division III, there's NAI, there's Division II, you know, low to mid majors. How do they navigate these waters? And kind of help us through this. Like when he just kind of threw us out in a pond and say, figure it out. And, you know, for a coach getting a job. Exactly. And so when they go, like it would be tough, like to try to get a waiver and like feel good about it. And then there would be times where you're like, well, I don't feel good about it. It doesn't meet these guidelines, but everybody else seems like they get it. And that's in theory, because I don't know numbers in that area, but like that, I think that is the piece of everything when you hear coaches speak that go through it. Because I haven't personally, but I get a lot of phone calls because of, you know, the committees that we're on. And that's what we need from them. You know, we need guidance and we need help to be able to kind of understand like where everything is and how to go about this, really how to build a team. And that's what we've been able to do at Purdue. Like we've been able to build a team and be able to sustain a team. And that's what coaches do. We know there's going to be transfers. We know there's going to be guys that leave, but you know, if you can't keep them, you can't grow them. And if they're always going to be moving, you know, at the end of the day, do we kind of get it figured out and we keep going on? Yeah. But if anybody's going to get hurt over that, it's going to be them at the end of the day, because 99% of them are not pros. And we get lost in that. You know, we write a lot of articles about the best players. We have the mock drafts. We have the combine. We have all these things. Well, these guys are really good players. Like they have a chance to be a pro. But the rules are for everybody the last time I checked. And so like now, where do these go? Like the opportunity to get a scholarship and go and play somewhere and get a college degree and then have that connection to that institution has, you know, that's been proven that's a great recipe for someone not to have a great career, but to have a great life. And that's what we're trying to get here is that, a big chunk of our guys aren't professional basketball players. But now if they're constantly moving and now that's all they end up doing is moving, like what have we really done for them? And there's nothing wrong with transferring. We've all seen a lot of positive transfers to help guys. Whether that's personally, whether that's academically, or whether that's basketball oriented. So we're not saying this, we're just saying the constant transferring, there's not a lot of stability for there. And I think at the end of the day, when you're going to see numbers 5 years, you're going to see that it's going to hurt some of those student athletes that just kept transferring.
All right. Last question I got for you, Paint. Is there any update on the fund to build the Robbie Hummel statue?
I think that's gone. I think that's gone. I don't see a lot of people jumping on that wagon right now.
Listen, Hummel, if you want to find Hummel, guaranteed he is at a golf course somewhere today. I don't know where, but nobody plays more golf in the offseason and then complains how hard they have to work for 4 months of the year than Robbie Hummel. It's amazing how soft he has gotten since he left the Purdue program.
We would love to have him back in the Purdue program. So like for us, obviously getting guys like that, I call them multipliers to make other people better. I know you guys like to needle him a lot for golf and searching for this unbelievable statue that somehow can't be found. But no, he's obviously done great.
Thanks, Pate. We appreciate you jumping on with us. Go win a few bucks. Get it up to $100 at least.
Yeah, I think I'm done. I think I'm finished there. So, all right, guys, thank you.
There it is. Purdue head coach Matt Painter joining us from Vegas. Good surprise guest because, again, the great thing with Painter is he's got such great insight into the issues into college basketball. I've said it over and over.
And he's not afraid. He's not worried about speaking his mind and saying what he actually feels. We had a conversation about this. I think it was about a year ago when Roy Williams retired and Coach K retired, and Jim Boeheim looked like he was kind of winding down. And it was like, who are the coaches that are going to end up being the voices that people go to, that are able to get out there and say what they want to say without worrying about blowback, without worrying about the ramifications? Who's big enough to be able to get out there and say the things that need to be said? And it might end up being Matt Painter, Tom Izzo, guys at Bill Self, guys at that ilk.
And Paint's younger than Izzo. Paint's on all these committees. He's trying to, again, like you said, while so many other coaches are hitting the portal and they have to, his biggest thing is trying to retain guys. And again, a lot of coaches, with the way it ended last year, a lot of coaches would have felt the pressure to maybe run some guys out, to create some spots, to bring in more transfers, right? More athletic dudes that are older. Instead, he just kind of stays the course, and you got to give him a lot of credit for it, especially with all the heat he's taken. And he comes right out. We didn't even ask him, right? He says, listen, we got to be better. I got to be better. We shouldn't be losing FDU, St. Peter's, and North Texas. Yep.
He didn't hide from it, and you got to respect that. All right. Let's get back to the rundown that I had written down before. That was a good surprise guest, by the way. I will accept Matt Painter level surprise guests. Next time you try to bring on Stanford Steve to surprise us, no more. Cutting Steve off.
All right.
All right. You said you would blindly put St. John's in the preseason top 25 the day that they hired Rick Pitino. Yep. They've now finished building this roster, and I believe it's what he went out and he added 11 guys. I want to say
11. He
kept 11 guys. Kept two guys. So, are you putting St. John's in your preseason top 25 with the roster that Rick Pitino currently has?
Hell yes. I'm putting him back in. I took him out for a little bit, and then when they got Jordan Dingle, that was kind of what they needed. A proven high-level scorer. He averaged 23 a game at Penn. He's older as well. So, I've got them in the top 25 because I think that's what they needed, a guard that could just play alongside Dennis Jenkins, make some plays, Soriano up front, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
average 15 and 10 or whatever it was last year at
It's a
St. John's.
monster.
Kept him. And then he added RG Lewis from UMass, Naheem Aline, who will probably come off the bench. Maybe he'll start, but, was a piece on a national title team. Glenn Taylor from Oregon State. They got enough. Quinn Slazinski comes in with him from Iona. He's got enough. He's got enough now. I was worried for a minute that he wouldn't have that electric guard that could really score the ball next to Jenkins. He's got it now. So, yes, I'm putting him in the top 25 right at 25.
Yeah, I think that I would probably have them there. I don't know if they have a top 25 roster in college basketball. I honestly, I don't think that they do. But I think that they have enough good pieces that Rick will be able to figure it out. And I'm telling you, I think that Naheem Aline is going to start for them. I think they'll probably slot him in at the 3. Yeah. And I think that he's going to be a very, very good player for St. John's. When UConn made when they kind of flipped the switch last year in early February, late January, it's when Naheem Aline kind of embraced this idea that look, I got to be a guy off the bench that can go get you a bucket. He doesn't do anything great. He does everything well. He is a very good defender. He is a very good open shooter. He's one of these guys. He's going to be playing pickup games until he's 40, just because he's so strong, can get to a spot and can get his shot off, despite the fact that he's not super athletic. I think he'll be a double-digit scorer for St. John's next year. I think there's a chance that he could flirt with all Big East. Is that crazy? Is that a hot take?
No, because again, he was kind of buried early last year at UConn, and what I loved about him was even when he wasn't playing the role that he probably envisioned, he was still a really good team guy. And I think that's going to be important. The leadership is going to be important because you got a lot of guys that, are coming from the mid-major ranks or haven't won a lot, right? Glenn Taylor certainly didn't win a lot. Obviously Soriano didn't win a ton. So, I was worried when they missed on what's his name? Walter Clayton. When they missed on Clayton, I was worried because I felt like, all right, they're going to get Clayton. He's the dude for me. But they picked up Dingle, who was kind of the next best thing. So, listen, Rick Pitino
he might be better.
I love Clayton. I'm like,
they're both very good, but Dingle is a bucket. He is bucket getter. Yep. All right. The other guy that they missed on, who actually ended up at I'm calling him your Indiana Hoosiers from now on, is Mackezie Mgbako.
Yep.
He committed to Indiana on, I guess it was Friday night. Top 10 prospect, a guy that you said at one point could be the number 1 player in the class. Didn't have a great senior season, senior spring. Didn't play great at the McDonald's All-American games. Been going through some stuff. Was committed to Duke when Filipowski and Mitchell both said they were coming back. He was the guy that was like, yeah, you know what? This isn't going to necessarily work out for me. Reopened his recruitment. Louisville, St. John's, Kansas, and Indiana. He ended up picking the Hoosiers over the Jayhawks at the end of the day. So right now, Indiana's lineup looks something like this, most likely. Xavier Johnson, Trey Galloway, Mgbako, Malik Renew, Khalil Ware, probably. Yes. Those 3 guys. I guess let's start with this. Can Mgbako play the 3? Is he a wing or is he a big, I
think he's a 4. I think he's a 4. I've said that since I first saw him play. I've seen him now for a couple summers. And again, like you said, I thought a summer ago, I would have taken him ahead of DJ Wagner. And there was no number 1 guy at that point, right? Isaiah Collier turned into maybe a number 1 guy. Kid Williams going to Colorado, number 1, but there's not a number 1 guy in this class. But Mgbako was a guy I really liked because I thought, he was a 4 who could really make shots, was skilled, played the right way. And then he fell off this past year. And I saw him in the McDonald's game, and he wasn't good. He was not good. I think he played well at the Jordan Brand. But, yeah, my biggest question mark with Indiana is, again, is Mike Woodson coaching and putting together teams like he's coaching in the 90s? That's my biggest worry. Now, again, I'm not saying Renew and Ware are plotting bigs. They're not. But can they step out and make shots from 3? I'm not convinced of that. I think the spacing might be ugly on the court if you try to play those three together. Defensively, they should be fine. And Xavier Johnson and Galloway have to make shots. And maybe they will. But, again, Xavier Johnson coming back from an injury. Galloway's only done it for a short period of time, and I like them both. But my big thing these days is all about, like, not just accumulating talent. Because, again, the same problem exists for me at Kentucky in a way. Do the pieces fit together? The pieces fit together at UConn last year. They fit together. I don't know if they fit together in Indiana or Kentucky completely.
I think that you can squint and they do fit together fairly well. It's not. Let's put it this way. I'm worried about the way that stuff is going to fit at Kentucky. I'm not quite as concerned about the way this stuff is going to fit at Indiana. It's not an ideal situation to basically have like three guys that are all in that kind of four, somewhere in the on the spectrum of 4 to 5, right, in your starting lineup. But I also think that there's a world where like one of those guys can come off the bench. You know what I mean? Like if Mgbako gets beat out in practice and ends up being your 6th man,
I would agree.
Like there's worse things in the world than being able to say, all right, depending on who we're playing, we can bring this top 10 prospect off the bench and we can either slot him into the 3 if we need to go big. If Malik Renew gets in foul trouble, put him at the 4, and all of a sudden we can kind of play 5 out, or you can bring him in and move Renew to the 5 and you got a mismatch 4-man in there. So I do think he gives you a little bit of lineup flexibility.
Maybe like
but
Caleb Banks, like he's one that I kind of liked in spurts last year. Can Caleb Banks kind of take a jump? Because they lost a couple of those wings that, Tamar Bates was supposed to, Geronimo, they were both kind of showed flashes, and obviously Miller Kopp's gone. They need, I'm with you. I actually think Mgbako coming off the bench early, especially, would be the best thing for this team.
You know what else could be really interesting? If they started Gabe Cupps alongside Xavier Johnson.
I don't think they're going to be able to. I don't think he's ready for that. And I think I love him, but I think he's a good backup as a freshman.
Yeah. I will say this though, if you get good Xavier Johnson, if you get the guy that what we saw at the end of his, I guess it was his junior year, the end of the 2022 season, you get that dude for a year and put him next to a guy like Trey Galloway. You said, I don't know if you love Trey Galloway.
I like him a lot. I like him a lot.
I love that dude.
Yep,
I think he is an absolutely perfect college role player. And I think that he's going to be very, very good and very important for Indiana, because you need guys that will go out there and do all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Like you got your stars, you got your rebounders, you got your defenders, you got some shot makers. You need a guy that can do all the other stuff, and he can do all the other stuff. And he's got a great flow. All right. I want to, before we get into a little bit of recruiting stuff, I do just want to circle back on the Bob Huggins conversation, right? Bob Huggins got a 3-game suspension. He was essentially fined $1 million, and I'm not sure how it worked. I think that you put this out there that he's essentially working on a 1-year contract right now. If you can kind of explain that a little bit, but do you think was this enough of a punishment? Was it too harsh? Where do you stand on this?
No, I think it was fair. I think it was fair at this point. Everything that, and again, the contract just got altered to where now it's a year-by-year thing. So at the end of next year, his contract's up, so they can part ways with him, or maybe figure something out where he goes into a different role with the university. But listen, he screwed up. He knows it. There are consequences. I didn't feel like, and I said it at the time, that he should be fired. So I'm kind of glad, because I just feel like he's done too much good. That one major F up, which is what he did here, would cost him his career and kind of change the way that we look at his legacy. I don't think that's fair. I think we're all one word away, one slip up away from being canceled now. And again, it's not something I condone. He completely screwed up. And hopefully he can learn from it. I mean, again, listen, my dad's 80. I'm trying to teach him things because he grew up in a different era. He grew up with words that we can't use anymore. So I'm constantly trying to tell him, Dad, you can't say that anymore. You can't. And I think something similar is true for Bob Huggins. Now, again, should he have known better? Of course with this word. But again, I just, to cancel somebody, off one mistake. And people tried to do it with Greg McDermott a few years ago. I just don't think that's fair when you talk about the totality of what you've done, how you've treated people over the course of your life. And that's something I will go back to for both McDermott and Huggins. When you talk to people around them, kids who played for them, coaches who coach with them, coaches who coached against them, how much they've helped and impacted people. That to me provides a hell of a lot more value than one screw up.
So this is the thing that I will respond to that with. The only way I think Huggins is lucky to still have a job there and not have lost his job. I don't think that there's anybody else that is the public facing, the biggest public facing employee at any $1 million, $billion company, whatever you would consider West Virginia, to go out on a public radio station and say that, and say it twice the way that he said it, as flippantly as he did. I don't know how many other people would survive that in any industry. So I think Huggins is lucky. In terms of what you're saying, like coming from a different era, the only way that is an acceptable response to me is if he shows some type of contrition and comes out publicly and acknowledges that he's made a mistake, right? This whole, like, let's put out a statement, like, this is so flowery and beautiful and well said by Bob Huggins' PR team. We just saw that same shit with Ja Morant. And you know what happened a month later? Ja Morant's out there doing the same thing, because it's his legal team putting stuff out, and it's his PR team making these statements for him. Until we see Bob Huggins in front of a camera acknowledging what he said was wrong, why it's wrong, and what he's learned from it, and how he's moving forward, and how he's bettering himself, then it all kind of falls on flat ears. Yeah,
I think we will see it.
And he's got to get in front of a camera, and he's got to, what was written in that statement, he's got to be able to say that and be make it look like and convince people
if
that
you've
he's
been
actually
around Hugs. Listen, if you've been around him, and again, I think the perception of Hugs is not the reality of the guy. Again, obviously he can be tough as a coach. Most people who talk about Hugs that know him well, they'll say, like, one of the best people you're ever around, kind of a big teddy bear. Trust me, I've talked to people close to him on this thing. He feels terrible about it. He feels terrible. I think we will see him out there. I'm hoping we get a chance to talk to Hugs here sometime soon.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing, is like, you could put out a statement, but a statement is just something that your PR team put together. He has to, and if he comes out here and says, like, look, I realize I'm wrong, and grows from it and sets an example for other people that have that same that still use that same vocabulary, then I think that's a good thing that can kind of help. I don't want to say help further that cause, because that's the wrong way to phrase it, but like, it can help other people learn from his mistake. And that's not a bad thing, but you actually have to show that you're improving yourself as a person.
I'll say this, just because you say that word doesn't mean you're anti-gay.
Yeah. There's a whole Louis C.K. skit about that, and we're not going to repeat that skit on here, but I understand what you're trying to say. Ernest Udeh, Ron Holland updates. Do you have anything on those recruitments? What are you hearing about them? We mentioned earlier Ernest Udeh at Duke.
Udeh at Duke, and he'd be, obviously, I mean, the rich would get richer, because that's all they need. They don't need, like, they need a rim protector in the Derek Lively type mold. Like, that's what they need, right? And Udeh would give him that. He didn't play a ton last year, but he's long, he's big, he's played a year at Kansas. He's been coached.
McDonald's All-American, like that. That dude could play.
So, to me, you have him for 12, 15 minutes. That would be a huge piece that they right now lack for the Blue Devils. And Ron Holland, I still think he ends.
You know what the Udeh thing, if he goes to Duke, you know what that could be similar to? If they do it right, that could be similar to using Adama Sanogo and Donovan Clingan for like 25 minutes and 15 minutes, what UConn did last year. I think that, like, if you're looking at that blueprint, I don't know how much you would necessarily.
I'll take Sanogo and Clingan a little bit over this group of fives.
No, I agree, but I'm saying, like, that's where you can kind of use for a blueprint in a way that can make it work. I also think that they could play together a little bit more effectively than than Klingon and Sanogo did, because both those guys were pure fives. You know, Filipowski's got some for him. Ron Holland, Arkansas, the G League still. Is this thing ever
I think
going to
it's
move?
Arkansas. I don't know. Yeah, I that's again, unless something's changed recently, I still think he ends up at Arkansas. But who knows with these? I mean, again, with NIL, with Arkansas still trying to figure out, are they going to get Devo Davis and Jordan Walsh back? I think that's the holdup right now to some degree, is they don't know what their roster's looking like. If both those guys want to come back, then there's no room for Ron Holland, or you got to create room. And Ron Holland wouldn't want to go there anyway if Jordan Walsh comes back, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, he's in this position where he left Texas because he wasn't sure if Dylan Mitchell was going to come back, and now he doesn't know if he's going to go to Arkansas because he's not sure if Jordan Walsh is going to come back. Like, how many of these 6'8" really athletic dudes that can't shoot are there? They're everywhere.
It seems like it. It seems like there's more than we thought.
Hey, by the way, did you see that Dylan Mitchell went out there and had like a really impressive shooting performance at the combine?
Yeah.
You know who else had a really impressive shooting performance at the combine? Andre Jackson. The two guys that were like, oh man, there's no way that they can shoot, went out there. Jackson
those
was
chairs, man. Those chairs can really they struggle defending. When you put a chair in front of somebody, they don't move that much. So, like, you know, again, guys who haven't shot it well sometimes shoot the hell out of it when they know that there's nobody that's going to impact their shot.
Yeah, I mean, but the one thing I'll say is this: with both those guys, the shots that they will be taking in the NBA are the wide open ones. It's the one. So I don't know if you watched the Denver Nuggets, Nuggets Lakers game last night.
Yes.
The reason that the Lakers were able to make their comeback in the fourth quarter is because the Lakers put Anthony Davis on Aaron Gordon, stopped guarding him, and basically had two guys defending at the rim.
Yeah.
And the issue was you didn't want Aaron Gordon shooting wide open threes. And for Dylan Mitchell and Andre Jackson, the only thing that they have to do is be able to make those wide open threes so teams can just not, like, you make it so they just can't not guard you. And if they're going to shoot 16 for 25 at the combine, like, well, you know what? Maybe they could actually do it. Make a wide open three. You got to make 1 out of 3 of them in the NBA. And then you're Marcus Smart.
Yep.
That's the way it is. Listen, this has been the Field of 68 after coffee. I guess it's technically after lunch right now. So thanks to Dagan Hughes for producing this. Thanks to Matt Painter for jumping on and walking us through some of the issues. And no thanks to Jeff Goodman, who I always despise talking to and has the worst takes that we've ever seen. My name is Rob Dauster. We'll see you guys again next week.